Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, everybody. How are you? Scottish Property Podcast, live question and answers. Stephen Clark, how you get on?
Good, thanks, mate. Good. How's everyone doing?
Are you on the move? Have you had your takeaway pizza for tonight? Are you up in Aberdeen?
Yeah, mate. I've got my bottle of red wine, my plastic cup ready to go at after the call.
I tell you what, it must be quite good having flats dotted about the country. See if you fall out with the missus. You just get to take off for the night and just say, I'll see you tomorrow, darling.
that comment has been made recently.
Right, welcome everybody to, we've not done one of these for a while actually. We've not done a live session. Now, the whole point in tonight is to try and get a few questions in from the audience. So if you want to know anything property related, anything that we can help out with, just fire questions in the comments box below and we'll happily try and help out. Stephen, what was the point in doing this live tonight?
So we were kind of very overwhelmed a few weeks ago that the group had managed to reach 2,000 members. And it's very active members as well. There's a lot of engagement in the group. We feel like it's quite a good group that we've created and we were kind of like want to celebrate it, but didn't know quite how to do it. So we decided the other day that we would do a little question and answer session and, people can ask us questions because we're always on the other side of the podcast asking the awkward questions to everyone else. So we thought we'd turn the tables on ourselves and answer any questions you guys have. And if we can answer them, we will try our best to answer them. If we don't, we'll probably try and bullshit it and pretend that we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, it's a great community. I've been really enjoying it, engaging, meeting, networking with all the 2,000 members. Well, I've not obviously spoken to all the 2,000 members, but there's a lot of people that we've connected with. Eventually, we will do a kind of physical event where we get to meet some people as well. But as you join in, guys, can you fire a comment and just say a quick hello? Tell us where you're checking in from tonight, and we'll put a wee comment up here. Hi, Colette Dunsmore. How you doing? There's Robert Ralston. How you doing, Robert? Hey, guys. So he's got a question there straight away. So, God, I was thinking we were going to have to speak for a couple of minutes before we got the questions. So shall we just get stuck in then? Start answering these questions. So we've got...
I hope we start off nice and easy to warm us up.
I know, by the way, the easier the better. Just at least give us a chance to answer them. Start off and just mellow us in. Right, cool. No jokes about my dying plant in the background as well. All right.
Oh, shit. I didn't promise you my dying plant, eh? Oh, 2 seconds, mate. Keep going.
I'm going to try and get on to Facebook here and make sure the group's set up properly. So just bear with us, guys. We've got somebody coming from Dumfries, Stirling, all over Scotland, hopefully. So
there you go. That's a real dying plant.
Oh my God! Look at that. It's even worse than mine.
There you go.
Mate, you need to pour some of your bottle of red wine in there.
That's how long this property's been on the market, guys. It's been on the market for what, 2.5 months or something. The plant's completely dead.
That absolutely wins the award for the Dying Plant Award anyway, for sure. Right, okay. So what we're going to do, guys, is we're just going to rattle through a few questions. For some reason, we're still not getting the names of the Facebook people. I'm just going to try and give permission so that we can see the names from the Facebook group. I think there's a little setting that I need to click here. I'm
sure Colette's came up from the Facebook group.
Yeah, Colette's come up. So I don't know if you need to give permission for StreamYard, which is the software we use to give your name across so that we can fire up your name and your question. So, guys, we'll just kick off. Robert, thanks very much for your question. Robert Ralston, who we've seen a few posts from Robert on the group, so we appreciate you being a member of the community, Robert. And first of all, he's asking, hey guys, interest rates, what do you think the factors are that will govern whether they go up, fly up, or stay low? A nice tricky one to start us off.
Mate. Nice one, Robert. Cheers. I personally think they're going to stay low. I don't think they can go up. I think right now what's going on, I think it would force the economy into a recession, or a bigger recession for it, currently in a recession. Cheap borrowing. People's got used to it for what, historically at this low rate. So I do think that any trigger, it's going to be very, very small increments to go back, and it'll probably take a long time to go back to anywhere near where it was, 10 years ago. What do you think, Nick?
So nice one. So I'm totally learning about all this stuff, like about the kind of wider economy and how that filters through into property prices. And it was really good on the podcast lately. We've had a couple of really good interviews. One of them being Adam Lawrence. That guy knows his stuff. So if you go back and listen to Adam Lawrence a couple of episodes ago, he gives some really good views, interesting takes on interest rates and what's happening with the economy. But my kind of take on it, and from what I understand, is just lately, obviously, there's this danger of like serious hike in inflation, and it's already apparently happening in the US. So in the US, they've pumped like trillions of dollars into the economy, helicopter money, they call it. Obviously, with all that stimulus going in to the economy and people spending and all that, the demand on everything, there's shortages of all sorts. Did you not say there was like shortages on MacBooks the other day? You went to get a laptop even.
I know, absolutely, mate. Yeah, and I know you're talking about the inflation as well. I noticed that a lot recently with refurb materials, particularly timber, wood, building materials. I recently got the fence for the Bridge Earn Clip project, and it's £1,800 for the timber materials. It's a huge increase in prices, and I think that's the only inflation that we will spot right now. So yeah, I completely agree with you, mate.
So basically, yeah, again, like one of the things that they do to combat inflation spiraling out of control, apparently, is that they raise the interest rates. So that would be one of the tools that the central banks have got, in their kind of toolbox to kind of keep the inflation under control. So if we do start to experience that, then that might be a possibility. But let's just see what happens. It's early days still, but there's a lot of experts predicting that that kind of rise in inflation. So hope that helps, Robert. And there's a few comments firing there on inflation, so probably a hot topic, and interest rates as well. So Charlie Swan, how you doing? Who else we got here? Any more questions? Brett Ferguson joined us from LinkedIn. So Brett, what do you think about home reports and the buying and selling process in Scotland? Stephen, what do you reckon?
The home report process is great in Scotland. It is a good thing, but I think investors that are starting out put too much weight on it. They read into it too much. They take it as gospel. But my biggest gripe with the home report is the cover their arse at every single point. Can't look under the floor and can't see up on the roof. Look with binoculars from 4 meters away. Like they just on a cloudy day, like they just kind of have all these little stuff in it that covers themselves for any kind of comeback. So take it with the weight that's given them. But it's a fantastic tool for somebody that's investing remotely because they can see a property at a glance. But we, as investors, we've all been there, but we've kind of tried to, friendly with the surveyor and try to push the value up. So they can be influenced either way as well. So yeah, I do put, it's a great valuable tool, and it's something that's not in England and not anywhere else in the UK, which is a good positive. But I do think that people put too much weight in it when they're starting out. And it's something that I'm assuming you were the same, Nick, didn't have home reports when you first started investing, so you had to kind of do your own due diligence rather than heavily rely on a home report.
Yeah, I think we're so lucky in Scotland to have their home report system. I mean, if you're in England and you're listening to this, then obviously you need to pay for a survey to get done on the property before obviously you decide, if you want to put the offer in and stuff. And that's obviously what we used to have in Scotland. I can't remember when the home report came in, but I love it as a tool. I think that where people fall down is they use the valuation on the home report as obviously you can use it as a guide, but don't use it as the true valuation, because at the end of the day, that is just one person's opinion, albeit it's supposed to be a professional, and they're supposed to be obviously registered with RICS or whatever.
No, absolutely, and a lot of them are really, really good and very detailed, and they've got a lot of good information from it. Like you say, you can invest remotely by looking at a home report, and it'll give you a part of the picture. But I think you have to do your own due diligence, because like Nick says, it is someone's opinion, and yes, they're experienced, and yes, they're qualified, but it still is an opinion as well.
It's quite a kind of quick scan of the property as well. Like, they will have like standard clauses that they put in, to cover themselves a lot of the time as well. And you're just like reading it thinking, what the hell does that mean? Like roof coverings anticipate, replacing roof coverings in the near future sort of thing. And, you're like, that doesn't really tell you much. A lot of it is quite wishy-washy.
No, absolutely. And if you're looking at the home report saying it's got a 1 as the roof, and you don't factor in any refurb, but costs for your roof or or whatever you're looking at it, make sure that you do your own due diligence and you go and look at it and you have a look at the roof and you do your own inspection like you would do your due diligence on any property you were going to buy. It's a great tool, but I would just use it with caution and use it as a tool, not as the Bible, if that's what I'm trying to mean.
Also, obviously, you get the EPC as well, so that now is quite important to be looking at your EPC rates.
Yeah,
which is something I never used to look at that like at all.
I've saw lending getting turned down for the last recently for EPCs being lower than a G. If they're lower, they're just not lending up. They're not putting a buy-to-let mortgage on it, lenders anymore. So I think this is going to become hugely important, and I don't know which way it's going to pan out, because there's a lot of flats in the city centre, in cities where you're listed building or you're in a conservation area. You've got stone or granite built buildings. You've got single glazing. You can't your single glazing sash encased windows. You can't replace them because you're in a listed building or a conservation area. You can't do anything intrusive to the building. So I'm wondering how they're going to get around some of these properties that you can't get gas central heating into. You can't double glaze the windows. So there's going to be some tricky ones where I'm wondering how they can get around it.
Yeah. Also, another thing I find useful in the home report as well, just before you go out and view the property, I generally don't buy flats that are unfactored in Glasgow. It's just a total nightmare a lot of the time to manage communal repairs, etc. So in the home report, there is a property questionnaire which the owner of the property has to put in about factors and what the costs are. Now, sometimes they'll leave it out. They'll not always be in there, but sometimes it can be helpful.
Mate, this is why I love doing the podcast with you. We disagree on fucking absolutely everything. I hate factors blocks. I absolutely hate factor blocks. And do you know what? It's probably my inexperience in doing flats, because most of your stock is going to be city centre flats. I've only been in city centre flats for a couple of years up in Aberdeen, but I just find them a flipping rip-off and a pain in the arse. But yeah, I do get your point. When it comes to major communal repairs, it lands on you communicating with the owners of 10 of their flats or whatever it is to try and come to a solution. So yeah, I'll probably see the benefit of it when I encounter a huge problem.
Always good to get a different point of view. Guys, what do you think? Drop them in the comments below. Also, we're looking for more questions, so we'll get on to our next question. Say it.
That'd be an interesting vote on the factor, whether other investors, what their opinion is, whether factored or unfactored. I can share a story recently of a factor building I've just got in Aberdeen. It's the one I put on my story today on Instagram. It's it was a 1-bedroom flat. I've converted a 2-bedroom flat in Aberdeen at top end of Union Street, and I was negotiating the price to 65 grand, and it was, the numbers worked to that, and then once offer was accepted on almost running up to through the conveyancing process, I was hit with there's a big communal roof repair. Once I got in touch with the factor and found out the details of it, and I got this 100-page document through of this roof inspection. I skimmed through and I looked at the end of the price. The price for this roof was £200,000. Now, you can replace flipping half the roofs in Union Street for flipping 200 grand. Like it was a complete. When I looked at it and I saw the breakdown, the factor was charging 15 grand plus VAT just to apply for an application to Aberdeen City Council to apply for some grant where the support listed in buildings in Union Street, and they want to repair the roofs and the windows. But yeah, you've got to go to their approved suppliers, which obviously ramp the price up ridiculous amount to it's 200 grand. I sent it to my own roofer contract down the road, and he says, mate, it's a huge detailed breakdown. I says, how much would your price be? And he reckons it'd be around 40 grand to do that. So they went from 40 grand to 200 grand. But when you read down into the small print and the broken down factors, the factor's charging for 15 grand plus VAT for applying for the grant, which are paying an inflated price for the repair. And then they've charged a 20 grand plus VAT project management fee just to project manage the roof contractor to do the roof repair. Thinking, bloody hell, chancers. And they take £75 a month for the privilege of doing a few cleans a year. I thought, yeah, you chancers. So there's my gripes on factors. That hits a cash flow quite hard.
I managed to touch a wee nerve. Have we got a wee raw nerve on you there, Stephen?
Well, you know what I'm always like, mate. I always see the benefit in all these opportunities and stuff like that. So when I got the 200 grand, roof repair bill, our share for the flat that we were buying in Union Street, it was working out at 13 grand. So I immediately went back to the owner and says, yeah, my offer was 65. We were reading it, man. My offer's now 53 grand, and they accepted it because I'd says, well, I've got this roof repair to pay for. So they actually took the offer at 53 grand. So actually we negotiated 13 grand off it by by utilising their report. So
there you go. There you go. No, that's interesting, mate. So what I was going to say is, on everybody who's watching on Facebook, if you want us to read your comments or questions, I think you might have to give permission to Facebook or StreamYard. There's probably a wee button or a wee question there saying to give permission so that we can fire your question up so that we can see your profile as well. But we'll try our best to get through them. So we'll just get on to a few more questions. We've got a few comments here. Aurora, how you doing?
Aurora, how you doing?
Yeah, we've got Philip Stewart. Hi guys. Oh, hi guys from Madrid, Edinburgh. It's absolutely lovely in Glasgow. It's been beautiful here. So who else we got here? Facebook. See, this is the problem with Facebook. It doesn't give our names. So it's simple. If inflation goes up, rates will go up, and it doesn't matter if people won't be able to afford their homes. If inflation goes to 3-4%, then they have to increase rates. That's what I was saying about it's all to do with inflation, whether or not the central banks will use that tool to control it. There's somebody else here. Thanks for doing the session. Can you explain a bit more about the process for refinancing buy-to-let property at 6 month stage? E.g., do you go back to the mortgage broker or just ask your lender? Do they need to survey the property again? Would a tenant be happy for that to happen, or better to do it before putting a tenant in the property? Thanks. Stephen?
So there's different, it depends on which way you buy it. If you buy it with cash or a bridging loan, then you can exit sometimes a lot quicker than waiting the 6 months. There's a few lenders that are doing that. If you buy with a mortgage and then you go to refinance to the new value to prove a renovation, they will want to come out and revalue the property to prove your renovation and to revalue it to make sure the values went up and you've spent the money where you said you spent the money. The tenant shouldn't have an issue with it at all. I've not had any issues with getting access for surveyors at the moment. Even during COVID, they just appreciate that sometimes these things happen. I don't know.
So about the 6 months, the way that I generally do it is obviously not everybody's in a position. Once I've done before, I just buy cash just because I just find it a lot easier. But obviously, if you don't have the cash at your disposal, then it's obviously a bit more difficult. But I buy cash, do the renovation, and then just go after the 6 month point and just have that all lined up with the broker.
I think I misread the question. I just read it. I think they meant, they're putting a mortgage on the property. They've kind of done a renovation, and then obviously they're doing a further advance. So you don't need to necessarily go through your broker to do a further advance. You can go directly to the lender because you'll already be a customer of theirs and just say you carried out a renovation on this property that you've owned, and you'd like to increase your borrowing level, and they'll probably go and send in fact they will send a surveyor out to go and value it, so you can pull some extra cash out of it. Sorry, I didn't really read that right. I think it was, do you go back to the mortgage broker? So I'm assuming they've purchased with a mortgage originally.
Yeah, and don't worry about the tenant. I mean, obviously, I always recommend that you try and have a great relationship. Retain a good relationship with your tenant, because when you do come to circumstances where you have to apply for a revaluation or a new mortgage or something like that, then you want to have them on side, because you can't just go in. You do have to get the tenant's permission to enter the property, usually 48 hours notice as well. But I've never been knocked back because we've got great relationships with all our tenants, so there's never usually an issue. Other tips as well, you might want to go and meet the surveyor as well. I had an incident a couple of weeks ago. I actually put it on the podcast group where I met a surveyor on behalf of a client of mine who'd done a full refurb, and they put together one of these packs with before and after pictures. There wasn't anything to do with valuations or anything like that. They just put like the schedule of works, what they did. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't a case of we were handing this pack to the surveyor to say, look, we've done your job for you. I was very respectful. I gave the guy space. I says, look, just at the end of it, if you want to have this is before and after pictures, the renovation spend and the schedule of works. It might be helpful. And he looked at me and he said, that's just a waste of paper. What do I need that for, sort of thing? Do you know what I mean? Obviously, I got him on a bad day, or he was just a grumpy git, basically. So, yeah, it was
I do get asked about do you prepare a pack for the surveyors, and my answer is always no. That's their job. Just go and speak to them and have the conversation, and But
I don't usually do it, but I think my client's probably on the call tonight. Actually, I don't usually do it for my own properties, but he wanted to do it, and a lot of people.
And they want to showcase his evidence to show that this is what he's done. He's carried out this work. So no, I completely see why. But it's like that you'll just kind of a lot of times you just get their backs up. It pisses them off, and the work.
But let me share with you, it was a positive result because I came away thinking, oh my God, this is going to be like a down valuation. This is going to be a nightmare. This guy's just having a bad day. And anyway, the client who's on the call here tonight actually phoned me later on and he said, guess what, Nick? The guy valued it $5,000 higher than I had thought he would maximum value. He would value it at. So I reckon he actually got an overvaluation on it. So the guy was brand new.
That's good. That's good then. Definitely. That's a fair success then.
It was a good success. So anyway, what have we got next? Colette. How you doing, Colette? What I don't understand though is why mortgage companies then do another survey, because they're always going to get their own value or own valuation company surveyor to do that, because like we said before, like home reports are sometimes not very accurate, so they always want to cover themselves.
This is why it kind of touches on that a little bit as well. Like obviously before you have to pay for your own survey when you're buying it. They brought out the home report. I mean, they brought out the home report. When was it? 2010, 9-10?
Well, yeah, it must have been maybe 12.
I remember them bringing it out, and then lenders didn't ask for. The lenders never got a valuation because they took the home report as here's the valuation, here's what it's been surveyed at. But obviously, being an experienced investor as well, you can see that the home report could be swayed and it's someone's opinion, because within about a year or a couple of years after it happened, I don't quite remember, all of a sudden lenders started requesting you got to do a separate valuation. So the seller's paying for a home report and a valuation, and you're paying for a valuation separate to the lender, which showed me all you needed to see about the home reports was that really the lenders weren't really putting much weight in it either. And kind of to answer your question, Colette, as well, the mortgage company's going to need to come out to mitigate their risk. They won't assume you've added value and the property is now worth 15, 20%, 30% more without seeing it, to make sure they're mitigating their risk as best they can. They want to overexpose stuff. Sorry, mate.
Remember before they changed it as well, when they used to take the home report value, like you were saying, they used to have a section in it which had the rental valuation as well. Mm-hmm. And they did away with that rental valuation too. And then they just started doing their own thing. And it is annoying when you have to pay for the valuation fee, which I think sometimes about 350, 400 quid or something like that. And then you pay that, and then sometimes you get a knockback from the lender and you lose that money, which is a pain in the arse as well. So
absolutely.
Just try to catch up here. There's a lot of questions firing on the Facebook page as well. See, if you get a chance, Stephen, if you can have a wee check on your phone, because I don't think everything is coming up on, because you can't see my comments, can you? No. Are you see? You're not right. Okay.
I'm seeing the comments now, the ones you brought up, like Colette's ones, yeah.
I don't want to miss anybody out, but I'll just keep firing through them. So we've got Lynn's here, just jumped from BRRR to development materials going nuts. What's your thoughts on where house prices will be in 6 months from now? Thoughts on house prices, prediction time.
It's funny enough, because we're just talking about materials there, and you're right, I've noticed it as well, and I'm kind of getting stung a little bit with a couple of refurbs that are going on, because the refurb materials have went up probably, I don't know, you might be able to estimate as well, 25, 30%. If that goes across the board, then how does that affect prices? Now, I spoke to a developer recently, and he's building 4 bungalows, and he's doing exactly the same. The first one sold coming out of lockdown at his normal materials cost have went up, 30%. He's got to add that cost onto the price of his house to keep his profit margin where he needs it to be. So does that then force the prices of the houses going up? And obviously there's a demand right now, so perhaps it would. I'll keep throwing them up for the next 6 months.
Have you been to B&Q lately? There's like loads of stuff that's out of stock, man. It's mental. I mean, I heard there was like a shortage of like semiconductors or something in the world that was causing problems, but like, timber and stuff like that as well. There seems to be obviously a shortage, and that's pushing prices up. And like you say,
I spoke to the timber merchant a couple of months ago, and I was getting deliveries to Bridge Earn, and comparing the prices, and the first time I phoned them, my usual supplier, and the price was extortionate. And I was like, what? So I phoned around a couple that turned out the original price was the cheapest.
We're losing the sounds, mate. We're losing. Can anyone hear Stephen? I'm losing him there. Can't hear you. I think your battery's going your AirPods, mate. Try not plugging your AirPods back on your laptop, Mike. You just went really silent there.
Mic check 1 2.
That's better. That's better.
So yeah, I was saying that I was getting prices for materials, and the first price I got was extortionate. And when I phoned down the other companies, they were actually more expensive than the first company. And I went back and said, like, what the hell? And that was the, oh yeah, COVID, Brexit, prices have all went up and stuff. And it was like, I remember saying to the guy, so where's your timber merchant? Like, where's your sawmills? Where's your suppliers? And it was in the UK. So what the fuck's Brexit got to do? You're not exporting anything from EU, but they decided to use it as an excuse to bump the prices up. And he was just like, well, I don't know, it's prices. So I think it's going across the board. They're just going up.
So the question is, what's your thoughts on where house prices will be in 6 months from now? Well, I've said this kind of all along the last few months that we've been doing the podcast. Things are absolutely booming at the moment. We're in boom time. Partly was because of the shortage of stock, people not bringing their properties on the market. That kind of like, some people are saying the stamp duty freeze and holiday and all that, but I don't think that really had much an impact. But I think it's still the shortage of stock and the demand is huge. I think that will continue. And over the next 6 months, I think that will continue. And I anticipate a price rise, I would say average over Scotland, probably 5 to 6%, probably 6% over the course of the year. My prediction. Could be wrong. Nobody really knows, but I'll just put my neck on the line.
Nah, I'd agree, mate. I think we're going to see prices. We're in the boom stage, and it's going to keep booming at the moment. I do think the same. I mean, it makes it hard for BRR deals, but I think for flips, if you get the right opportunities and you can add the right value, you could probably play the market in an upward market and make some decent money on a flip.
And we were talking, obviously, what the factors that could obviously, drop property prices. One of those factors being, the unemployment rate could rise after furlough ends, when that all comes to an end. But to be honest with you, I just think that we're going to rebound quite strong out of this. And things are already starting to open up now. If you go out to places...
the money's been pumped into the economy. It's going to bounce back very, very quickly.
I think so. And the unemployment rate might possibly go up, but it'll be predominantly in the kind of lower age bracket. Probably most of those people will not be people who are buying property. So from like 18 to 24 sort of things. So people on the higher salaries and the higher income jobs, I don't think there's going to be huge unemployment there. So yeah, just our view. Obviously, everybody has a different view. That's the beauty about it. Just moving on, guys. Russell from Edinburgh. If EPCs are a minimum of E for buy-to-let lending and properties that are F or G plus, will that open up the market for cash buyers to be in a stronger position?
He also put hate factors as well. Cheers, Russell. Let's get the factor debate.
I hate factors, mate. I don't like them.
You hate them, but you like them for the use of them.
Well, I mean, like, I've been in the situation where I've had a property in a block unfactored where the owners weren't willing to put their hands in their pockets to get communal maintenance and repairs done, and it's turned out to be a total headache. I actually tried to do the factoring myself and get all the owners on board, and I spent the hours that I spent doing it. I just had to give up in the end because the other owners were tight bastards, basically, and they wouldn't put their hands in their pockets. So,
mate, I think, Russell, I think you've raised a really good point there. Actually, that's going to be the opportunities coming when the EPC regs are enforced for lets. If you get F and G properties, that'll be the ones you can hoover up cheap. The only thing is you probably have to buy cash or you have to buy in a residential mortgage to get them, and then improve the rating to then make it lettable. But I think you're right. I think that's going to be an opportunity in the coming years.
Obviously, EPCs and the the sort of change of legislation there. That's all on hold at the moment. The Scottish Government put that on hold. They had plans to introduce that last year, and then COVID hit and they put all that on hold. But that will be coming back very shortly, I think.
When's it announced? Is it next April?
I think they put it back to 2022. So we want to try and get somebody on the podcast to talk about that. I think it's a really, really important topic. Governments,
but yeah, you do want to get someone on the podcast to talk about it,
yeah. Boring as shit, aye, but it's important. It's important, boring shit.
You're right, mate. You're right.
And if anybody knows anybody who's in that kind of industry, governments are under a lot of pressure to meet all the different quotas. And we've got in Glasgow, we've got the big, can't remember what it's called, the COP something, which is the big energy conference worldwide. All the big world leaders coming to Glasgow to talk about all the kind of green energy, greener energy efficient policies that they can put into, legislate for and get everybody. I mean, we've both got electric cars, mate, so we're already bought into this stuff. Do you know what I mean?
No, you bought in this at Leaf, mate.
Don't slag my Leaf. Don't slag my Leaf.
No, you're right, mate. That's important. I do agree. It's going to be something that's going to be aware. It's the stuff that I would usually ignore, but because I'm on the podcast with you every week, mate, I'm very well aware of it. You
just copied me, mate. Just because you've got like shares in Tesla, and you probably hang out with Elon Musk and all that. Now that you've got a big fancy Tesla.
Anyone want a recommendation to do a recommendation for free? I think you get 5,000 miles charged on the supercharger. So if anybody wants one, come and see me.
It is a nice motor. Anyway, moving on. We're not here to talk about cars. We're here to talk about property. Dundee, not many factors in Dundee, so no need to track down owners. Right, okay. Lee Hargreaves. Hey, guys. How you doing, Lee? Sorry, another no-name one. They do. Right, okay, that's just a comment. They do have a panel of valuers. Yeah. Let me see if I can find another question here. Oh, here's a good one. I think this is from Emma Nugent, possibly. How do you think another referendum will affect the property market in Scotland, and more so if we get independence? Right, okay. So we generally don't get involved in politics, but it is a valid point. But, right, look back at the last sort of 6-7 years, right? All the stuff that we've had. Indy Ref 1, 2014, everybody was panicking. What's going to happen? Blah, 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 blah. Nothing really happens. The market was on and up. It continued to go up. When was it? What was the next thing? Brexit. All the talk about Brexit. Nothing really happened. Things are still going up.
People panicked and held off.
COVID. That was the next thing. COVID. Everybody's like, prices are going to crash. Nothing's happened. Things are still going up. So we always say to people, I really buy into the property cycle, the 18-year property cycle. And who are you looking at there, by the way? Have you got a visitor there? You got somebody in the flat with you?
I was just thinking there, Sam Dargay, man, absolute fucking ear bashing the other day when I mentioned independence referendum. And I was like, I'm not interested in politics, not interested in debating it. And he was like, but this independence referendum will have a hugely negative impact on the property. And if he's on the live, he'll give his point of view. And I'm basically saying that it stopped big corporation companies coming in and investing into the country that could have a negative impact. But I hate talking about politics. I don't really pay attention to it. Like you say, Nick, I see people talking about doom and gloom with Brexit and everything else, and nothing changes, nothing happens in the property market. People sit on the fence, worried about it, and they miss opportunities.
Well, I think there's obviously talk about RBS was one of the big ones. They came out and said that if Scotland get independence, then they'll move their headquarters away from Edinburgh back down to England or something like that. They reckon there's I think there's 10,000 jobs RBS in Edinburgh. So, once big companies like that, like what Sam was saying, if they start moving their staff away, then you think to yourself, is that going to have an impact on the demand and then hence the property prices? But again, I just don't see it. I don't see it. The thing that worries me is the kind of hard border thing. So obviously if Scotland get independence, then the whole point is that we'll get back into the EU, and then we have this hard border with England. So then if all the stuff that's coming in through the English ports comes into England, then it has to go through another. Oh, so it's all just messy. Anyway, let's not go there. And let's just go back to property and stick to what we know, because I don't know shit about politics either. Right.
Perfectly.
Let's go back to LinkedIn. So we've got Kevin on LinkedIn. How you doing, Kevin? Do you think there might be an excess of stock at lower end value between 50 and 75k now? So many mortgage companies have pulled their products due to excess workload for surveyors and solicitors. I think there was a wee bit of that happening, but no, I think Kaiser Salimi put a post out the other day. Another lender coming in saying that they would lend, I think it was a minimum loan value of 50k. Yeah, so that obviously pushes up the purchase price a little bit. But yeah, you're right. There's not a huge amount of choice at that level, 50 to 75k. I think there's a lot of cash buyers out there at that level, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's quite a lot of cash buyers at that level as well. And there is one or two lenders, three lenders that would touch that lower end. So different if there was none at all, then yeah, I think it would have an effect, and it would force the cash buyers to get the property cheaper and cheaper. So you probably pull the value of those properties down. But yeah, I think there's enough lenders there that
And some of the big mainstream lenders like the Mortgage Works. I mean, I've got one with the Mortgage Works. The loan value is 37.5. Now, as far as I'm aware, they're still lending on that.
That's in your own personal name, wasn't it?
Limited company, yeah.
Right. I thought the Mortgage Works were higher.
No, I was looking at it the other day. Now, I purchased this property about 2 or 3 years ago, but as far as I'm aware, obviously you need to check with your mortgage brokers, guys. We're not brokers, so we kind of give advice on mortgages. But I definitely, because I was looking, because I had to put in the Mortgage Works. I had to put in the. I was applying for another mortgage with the Aldermore. By the way, Aldermore, pure nightmare, absolute hoops you've got to go through to try and get a mortgage with Aldermore. So I was having to pull out all the mortgage statements and the outstanding loan amount on that, and it was just a 75% LTV, was 37.5, and that was about 2 or 3 years ago. But yeah, good valid point. But there's so many foreign investors coming in, people from Hong Kong, loads of Asian investors coming in, Chinese, Hong Kong investors. They just come in with cash and buy properties up to 100k in cash. Do you know what I mean? That's the word on the street from estate agents anyway.
On the street, mate. Word on the street.
The word on the street. So what we got here, Annabelle Robertson. How you doing, Annabelle? Thanks, guys. Yes, that's what I meant, the BRRR strategy. On our Facebook, if you were starting out again from scratch, what would you do differently with regards to setting up and scaling a property portfolio?
Setting up a business, nothing to do with property.
Yeah. You love it. You love it.
I just think that I think because my focus is on property, I've got it backwards. You should be focusing on business and growing huge income elsewhere and investing it into property, because we're all focused on BRR strategies and buying and renovating, whereas you should be parking money to grow assets, grow wealth and grow capital. And if I was to do it right, I would make so much more money in another business and then pump it into property, but not do these time-consuming, long-winded, loads of effort strategies just to make a couple £100 a month positive cash flow each one. So yeah, that's what I would do. Make money elsewhere and pump it into property.
The thing that I would do differently is not wait for the perfect deal. I have been guilty over the last, I would say, this is what stalled me, honestly.
A couple of years I've known you.
Exactly. I bought one deal this year. The reason being, I've been waiting for this perfect deal to come along, this buy, renovate, refinance, get all my money back out. It's not happening for me. I would have been better off just getting it ploughed in for something that was leaving 10 to 15 grand in. Property prices are going up 5% a year. Then I'm going to get my money back out anyway. It's going to take a little bit longer. But yeah, don't wait for the perfect deal to come along. It's definitely a thing that's held me back. One of the reasons I've got cash sitting there in the bank that's doing absolute jack shit. And one of the reasons I'm even looking at putting it into Bitcoin now. Because
that's a really, really good point, actually. And I've recently probably taken a bit of that advice on portfolios I've been hunting down for a couple of years to find the perfect portfolio deal, leaving no money in it. And I've taken one, got enough accepted on one that's not pulling all the money back out. It's leaving probably 30 or 40 grand in it. But over the 2 or 3 year period, because it's cash flowing 8 properties, it soon pays for itself back a lot quicker. And it's looking at a bigger picture. Like you say, if the property prices are going back up in value and you're buying right and you're adding a little renovation each time the tenant moves out, you're going to get your money back out eventually. It might take a few years, but you're getting your money back out.
Yeah, I think it's obviously people who are starting out with if you're starting out with a small pot, obviously you want to make that go as far as possible and try and get all your money back out and understand why people kind of hold off. But then you're missing out on all that growth as well. So you don't get anything for a year and you've missed out on all that capital growth. It's a kind of catch-22. Let's move on. Hey guys, great session so far. Do you find in your experience that when refinancing or getting a further advance, surveyors will tend to down value? If so, is there an average you then plan for factoring in? And if you're buying cash and don't get the value you're looking for, would you go to another lender? So I think it's just your luck a lot of time at the moment. You hear of like speaking to Gillian Darren Green, who are doing good things. They're very active. They've been getting quite a few revaluations, and lately they've been sharing on the group. And some they've said that have come back good, some have not. So it just really depends on who you get out, I think.
I think I'm finding as well that it's not necessarily the surveyors that are down valuing them, it's the lenders. And I'm wondering if that's them trying to mitigate the risk for something they think is going to come. I recently had a property in Aberdeen that was valued. The surveyor agreed with me on the valuation. It was 160, but the valuation came back at 145 from the lender. So they put in 15 grand, and it's fine. It's worth 16. You're tying up a bit more money in it, but the equity's built in there. But yeah, I think that's something you have to factor in when you're doing your numbers. Do them very conservative, so if it does come back a little bit lower, you're aware of it. You don't mind leaving the 5 or 10 grand in a deal, and if you do get all the money back out, then it's a win. It's a bonus.
What about going to another lender then? Is what he's asked there. I mean, I've never done that. I've just kind of accepted the fact that it wasn't as high as what I wanted. But I've only ever had a disappointment of about 5k. I think if it was about 10 to 15,000 under what I was expecting, I might be like, wait a minute here. Have you ever appealed or gone back to the lender or else tried another lender?
The only problem with going to another lender is you're not in control of the surveyor they send out. So if you went, if you got an undervaluation from TMW, but they instructed DM Hall, if you go to Paragon or Precise and they instruct DM Hall, you're getting the same lender that's going to come back out. And like you said earlier on, you're going to lose your £300 or £400 valuation fee as well, and delay the process further as well for getting your money back out. So you could, if it's significantly undervalued, like Nick says, and you're 15, 20 grand, then definitely you could appeal it, and it's worth the 300 quid you've lost to go and get the right valuation in. But if it's
if it's between 5 and 10, then you probably just need to accept it.
Well, what the difference between 5 and 10 grand? It's only a few grand left in the deal that you're going to get back out in cash flow very quickly anyway.
Yeah. Cool. Facebook, what would you say is the best approach to do it? Sorry, I'm not sure what that relates to. It'd probably be a previous question. Andre, yes. Yes, love the enthusiasm. Yes. Somebody's just scored a goal. He must be watching the football. We on our Facebook, that's Fenella. Yeah, we know Fenella. She's a regular on the group. How you doing, Fenella? We always do pack the photos and some evidence of why we're looking for the value we want. I know Andrea's talking about yes now because it was his flat that got the valuation, the good valuation that came back. So I know.
I'd be interested in hearing Fenella's point of view on how she finds surveyors approaching them with the pack and the before and after pictures, stuff like that. Because I've not really heard many positive things coming from that experience.
Yeah, no, that'd be good. Fenella, if you want to just drop a comment in, let us know your experience. I think you might have commented on a previous post anyway, but that would be good. Another one from Facebook. Not sure I'd buy another factored flat. Approximately £250 per quarter. Really eats into the profits. Am I better buying a 3-bed semi? I think this person's been talking to Mr. Sam Dyer about buying houses rather than flats.
I love how somebody else is jumping on my factor hate campaign.
You've got I'm sure you will get a lot of support with that one. Yeah, I would say, yeah, of course. The tenement buildings in Glasgow generally are about £60, £60 to £70 a month. If you're buying in a modern block, with the kind of lifts and secure car park and all that, you could be up to £150 a month. So it does really eat into your cash flow. Absolutely 100% yes. 3-bed semis, great. Absolutely love the houses. And obviously, you don't have that problem. You have other issues, like if your roof goes, then it's all just down to you rather than paying an 1/8 share. Obviously, you've got other added costs, such as your paying your insurance yourself, the fence, for example. Fences have been a big thing this winter. Loads of tenants now that they're out starting to use the gardens, I'm getting loads of phone calls about blown down fences, sheds that basically need refelted or are rotting, and all kind of like landscaping and garden maintenance as well. So you have all that if you've got a house too. Now, some people argue that, that's down to the tenant to pay for that. But, if it's a fence or you've provided them with a shed that's in decent order and obviously that's rotted over time, then, really you should be providing the upkeep of that. So there's other costs obviously involved going down the house route.
3-bed semis in Dulwich, that's the area I stay in Dunfermline. Absolutely, if you can afford to buy them, I think it'd be great cash flow assets. You would get a long-term tenant in it. They would probably stay huge long-term tenants in there. I think they'd be great assets, but like they've kind of stated, a hell of a lot more expensive than flats.
Cool. Moving on. Hi guys, keep up the great work. By the way, thanks very much. That's from Craig. Out of curiosity, do you guys ever leave 100% in, or is it always as much as you can pull out the property? I would rather try and get my money out because I like to leverage. I like to treat it like a business, and I just feel that leaving money in, like, what's the point? It's just not doing anything. Possibly it might be for people who are towards the end of their investing, or they don't want the leverage, they don't want the risk. They want to bring down they want to bring down their debt, or else, people who are having trouble getting the lending, who are investing maybe from out with the UK or Scotland or whatever.
I've personally been lazy in a couple of properties in my own personal name that haven't pulled all the money back out, hasn't refinanced it, and there's money sitting there. But I'd agree with Nick. Definitely leverage it, pull it out. Borrowing's a historic low, so why would you not leverage it and try and get more?
When I get frustrated, I'm sometimes get frustrated that I'm not getting the deals or the BRRs. Then, last year or something like that. No, not last year. 2 years ago, I just bought a straightforward 1-bedroom flat in Denniston. It had nothing to be done to it, and I just bought it with a 25% deposit. There was no renovation to be done, and it worked quite well as a cash flowing property. And I won't get that cash back out, but it's fine. It's doing well. It's gone up in value over the last couple of years, and it's cash flowing well. So yeah, I do that sort of thing as well now and again. Andy, how you doing, Andy? Have you guys ever bought tenanted property, or do you always look for property needing refurbs? Also, Stephen, does your Tesla make it all the way to Aberdeen in one charge? He's having a dig because my Leaf couldn't get to Aberdeen. I actually went up to Inverness to see my mum.
Fucking Perth to charge up.
It took me about 5 hours to get up from Glasgow to Inverness because I had to stop at Perth and I had to stop at McDonald's and get a coffee and sit in a car park for about 40 minutes till my Leaf charged up. So yeah, whereas with the Tesla drivers, man, they're just straight past.
Absolutely. Buying tenanted properties is sometimes a bit tricky because you've got a whole another level of due diligence to do on the property, because not only are you checking on the property, you want to check on the tenant, their rent log, and make sure they're paid on time. Who have you got in the property? Because you could be inheriting someone's problem. If they've not got the right PRT or a tenancy agreement in place, then they can end up staying in the property and can really be a nightmare. I've bought a few times. Tenanted. I bought a portfolio where there was 4 flats in it and 2 were tenanted, and it worked out really well. And the portfolio on that's in motion at the moment, 7 out of 8 of them are tenanted as well. So yeah, there's a whole another level of due diligence. But if it's for cash flow and assets, the only problem is with the BRRR strategy is if you're buying it with a tenant, you can't go and carry out the renovation to increase the value. So if you're happy parking cash in it and getting cash flow from day one, then it's a great investment for that, or a great strategy for that investment. And just my plan with the Tesla was to get Aberdeen and back in one charge, and if I can just get to Aberdeen on one charge.
Brilliant. Have you got a charging point? Have you found a charging point yet?
Nah, I've only got 20 miles to go. It's outside the flat.
Right, yeah. You're screwed. With tenanted property, I would always one thing that I'm very cautious of is check the lease, make sure all the paperwork's in line, because you don't want to be buying a property where there's no lease or you can't get the tenant out if there's an issue. That would just be a nightmare. So that would be the biggest thing. We actually did a podcast on buying tenanted property, and we had Chris from Portfolio. The guys there are really good. They put out some good content on buying with tenanted properties. So check back in the podcast library and we give you some good tips on that. But yeah, like cash flowing from day one.
Would you buy, Nick, a property that was on a short tenancy, one of the old ones?
Short assured tenancy is all right, yeah, as long as it's like the paperwork's properly done and it has
an agreement for life. Is that an assured tenancy where they can basically stay in it for rent at a period for life?
Yeah, an assured tenancy, that's the one that sets off the alarm bells. Like that's the one you want to avoid.
That's the one I was meaning to ask. So you would completely avoid it?
Assured tenancy, you've got no hope. If they want to stay there until they die, then they can. Do you know what I mean? Very, very difficult situation that. If you want to repossess the property, basically you have pretty much no rights as the owner. But the short assured tenancy, which came before the PRT, as long as you have an AT5 document in place, so you have to have the two things. You have to have the short assured tenancy and an AT5. As long as you've got those two documents, then you're all right with that, as long as it's been filled in correctly. Portfolio, check out those guys, tenanted properties, and they pump out some good content on that. Moving on, guys. Facebook, Annabelle Robertson. How you doing, Annabelle? Nice to see you. Loving your profile picture.
You've paid her to say this.
Nick Ponte, am I right in thinking you have a letting agency? Well, letting agents probably hated as much as factors as well, aren't they? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they can never do right for doing wrong. They're always going to be the bad person at one side of the argument. However, Annabelle, let me answer this question for you, because I've followed Nick on social media for about 4 or 5 years, and if my properties were in Nick's area, there would be no doubt whatsoever I'd give them to Nick. I've saw him for fucking years going above and beyond the call of duty, like, oh, the tenant's not taking the bins out. There's a pile there. The landlord's going to get charged for it. Nick's down there fucking taking the bins out and putting them out. He goes over and above and beyond the call of duty for his landlord. So yes, the services he offers, Nick, Glasgow's surrounding area?
Glasgow plus half an hour drive. So yeah,
round about. You also source kind of properties for other clients that you know the areas in Glasgow really well, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. So don't want to like talk about myself, Stephen. We're trying to give value here, but yeah, basically she's Thanks very much, mate. So basically,
about promoting our own services on the podcast.
Basically, she's asking, what is the value in getting a letting agent? So, of course, you can manage the property yourself by all means. If you want to go down that route, I would really strongly advise becoming a member of the Scottish Association of Landlords. It's the best, like £99 or £95 you'll ever spend. Basically, they give you loads of documentation, including all the leases and all that, which makes you legally compliant as a landlord. Once you start getting 2 properties plus, and you start building your portfolio, really, if you want to be a proper investor, Stephen, you always say this, you don't want to be dealing with tenants.
No, Annabelle, it really depends on your skill set and what you enjoy doing. For me, I personally enjoy doing the deals, hustling to the deals, raising the finance, kind of the renovation. Once it becomes a cash flow asset, for me, that's no longer my strength. That's something I would not thank you for doing. So I'll always factor in, the 10%, 12%, whatever the fee may be for the letting agent. I always factor that into my operating costs of the property. And a lot of people will say, do you know what, you pay them 10% for nothing, but what do you really want? Do you want the phone call at 10 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock on a Sunday night when you're away to sit down for your Sunday roast and the tenants locked themselves out or there's a water leak? That's something you pay the letting agent for. You can get on with what you enjoy doing and part of your business. But some people enjoy it, some people do like it. But I think you touched on there, Nick. If you've got one or two, it's fine to self-manage. But I think it's important doing it right from the start, because I think when you set the precedent of self-managing, you become tighter for the cash flow that you feel you need to keep self-managing. From the offset, I've always just put them to a letting agent and I factor their costs in. And it's something that they'll do a lot better than me. And obviously, legally compliance, the last 5 years since EICRs came in, gas safety's been a lot longer, Legionnaires, pat testing, the whole lot. They make sure that everything's kept compliant. So
it's all right, mate. It's all right. I've just put you on there. I'm just fiddling about with the settings there.
I thought, shit, you're just left me hanging here.
No, I'm just fiddling about with the settings. So basically, the services basically are that the letting agent can help you get the property up to spec, so all the compliance and all that. Advise you on that. I actually help landlords with doing like the minor refurbs as well, not serious stuff, but the minor stuff. Advertising, marketing the property, finding the tenant, referencing the tenant.
Well, Nick, do you do tenant finds and do you do a fully managed service on your agency?
Yeah, I actually do now. I never used to, but yeah, I do tenant find as well. So yeah, basically, and then once you get the tenant in place, then you are managing all the rent coming in, making sure that's paid on time, inspections, maintenance, repairs, all that sort of stuff, making sure all the gas safety certifications up to date, all the legislation that keeps coming in, renewed legislation, keeping on top of that, advising the landlords on when they need to do what. Also, when the tenant hands a notice, getting somebody in as quick as possible. And also, if it goes wrong, which it quite can, like it can go wrong as well. Things happen. I've got a couple of cases at the moment where we are having to pursue the tenant for either rent arrears or we're having to serve notice on the tenants, which is really difficult at the moment. There was actually a question asked about that that we could get onto as well. But yeah, all that sort of stuff. So generally what happens is people start off managing their own properties thinking this is easy. And then as soon as the shit hits the fan, something goes wrong, then they're like, oh, I wish I had an agent. Do you know what I mean? Because they don't know what to do.
And you really don't want it to go wrong. You don't mind paying the agency their fee every month and everything's going swimmingly and you pay it and you feel like you're paying it for nothing. But the minute it goes wrong, you want an agent working on your behalf.
Next up, we've got Jamie. How you doing, Jamie? Jamie's watching on YouTube. Thanks very much for watching. Jamie's doing a brilliant. I remember right back at the start when we started doing these lives, Jamie hadn't bought any property and he was really kind of just learning. I think he's now got a couple of buy-to-let properties. So I've been watching his progress.
Taking action, isn't he?
He's definitely taking action. I love watching him on Instagram. He's putting out his refurbs and all that, and he's building his audience and his brand as well. So brilliant stuff, Jamie. He said he was at a viewing recently and the agent said the council are buying up the lower end stuff cash as well because they also need the stock. That's no surprise. There's obviously a shortage of social housing. It's always been the case.
This is something that's kind of been obviously under wraps a little bit. They don't advertise the fact that the council are buying properties back because obviously the council for years and years allowed their tenants to buy them at hugely discounted prices, and now they're paying market value at the moment to buy them back. So they don't want to publicise that fact, but it's been happening for a few years, and not necessarily low end stock, to be fair. In Kirkcaldy and Fife, the council are buying 4-bed houses because that's what they've got a demand for. So they're buying them. A friend of mine recently just done a flip, and they got an inflated home report, and the council bought it off them. So they got a nice clean exit. So yeah, some councils are. I don't know if it's all councils, but certainly some councils are buying back stock.
And in Glasgow, we have a lot of housing associations, and a lot of housing associations are buying as well off of private landlords, especially in some areas which are they're trying to bring them up, like Govan Hill. There was talks of them paying full market value for properties from private landlords in areas like that as well, just to try and get control of some of the closes, some of the buildings. Like we said, social housing stock is a big issue, and obviously the governments are trying to, they'll be helping out the councils as well, trying to basically make the number of affordable homes higher in Scotland. So that's a big political policy as well that we heard from a lot of the parties pre-election was, that whole thing. But we'll not get on into the politics again. Kevin, how you doing? There's Kevin again. I get the product in the end, but rate wasn't great. He got his product. That was for the low level lending, 50 to 75k. From Facebook, when buying a buy to let, how do you structure a deal when using other investors' money? Plus, what sort of rate terms do you offer investors over a period of time? Well, I have never actually taken investors' money, so you'd probably be the best person to answer this. Stephen, I'm going to grab a glass of water. What time do you reckon we should go to? 9:30?
9.
Are you on your bed? Have you got a visitor there, by the way?
I'm about half sleeping.
Hey, have you got a sofa bed there to sleep on tonight?
I'm going to line up crashing here. I'll answer this question when you go for a glass of water, mate.
Right.
So yeah, when buying a buy-to-let, you can structure it in a different ways. There's a number of different ways you can structure it to get their money back out. I personally like using personal loans, so you can personally guarantee the private investor their money, and then I'll director's loan it into the company. And once the refinance takes place, I can pay the director's loan back to myself, then the money back to the investor, and I usually take the interest out of the limited company because that can be seen as an expense and pay the investor back with that. Rates and terms, it really depends. You can get a mortgage on the property at 6 months. I wouldn't say a 6-month deal. Factor it in for a year, because if it takes 9 months, at least you're paying your investor back earlier rather than later. My usual rates for a buy-to-let would probably be around 5 or 6% that I would offer. Again, depending on the deal, but that'd be about where I'm at right now, which is a hell of a lot better than the bank, and people seem to be snapping your hand off at that at the moment.
I'm only giving you money if you offer me 10%, mate.
Lucky you, your 10%. I'll do that for a flip, mate.
Right. Cool. Guys, by the way, there's not many people doing flips at the moment. So, like, Stephen's one of the very few that I see doing them. So go and check out his Instagram, because there's a good one going on at the moment. Bridge of Earn.
I need a couple other flips on the go.
Yeah. Cool. Moving on. Ever considered diversifying into buying land and doing holiday lets? Buy land, put in log cabins, glamping pods, location critical, of course. Expensive to build the properties, land, utilities, maintenance. So more of a joint venture. Actually, that's from Craig Morris. I actually grew up on a caravan site, and I reckon if we still had that caravan site, it was like, the big static caravans and that. Mum and dad's.
Grown up.
What's that?
Just trying to think you use a little gypsy grown up.
Gypsy boy. Aye. Pikey.
That's a really good question. It's a huge strategy right now, especially with staycations and people not going abroad, maybe not with the confidence to travel abroad, and they kind of come in a couple of years. I think it's a phenomenal strategy. I don't know. I've looked at it before the land site sat down and came across where you couldn't quite get planning permission on it, but you could get for glamping pods. But what I found difficult to get my head around was the funding of it. And like Craig Lodge touched on there, it's probably more of a joint venture, finding someone with the cash to stump up all the $300,000 cash and split the business, split the run from it.
Definitely possible. I mean, like, my mum still stays up in Inverness, and I was up visiting there recently, and there's she stays out towards Clon Battlefield, and as you head out of Inverness up to Clon Battlefield, there's a caravan site appeared, I don't know, 10 years back or something like that. And it was just a field before. So they obviously got planning for that. Now they've got a number of these glamping pods. So obviously it's big business. And I was asking my mum about it. Are they busy with the glamping stuff? She's like, I absolutely. She says, you're struggling to get them. So popular at the moment. So yeah, I mean, it must be possible, but I think it's maybe a long process to get the planning. And you can just imagine loads of people putting in objections and all the rest of it. But yeah, so I guess you just need to get the right location as well, don't you? Put a lot of market research into making sure that you've got that demand there. And it's got to be in an area where tourism's quite big as well.
Absolutely.
Cool. So, guys, I think we'll probably wrap it up. Stephen's getting tired. I can see it. He's wanting just to crash out on his sofa there. So we've probably just take a last couple of few questions in from you. It's been a good session. What's that?
How many more questions have you got there?
We've only got another few here.
Mr. Jim Parker coming in there with a fight for buying 50 units.
Yeah, Jim Parker. He knows what he's quite well connected in the Fife Council, so he knows what goes on there. And somebody else here who has put in a quick question. That's Niven. I'm just checking back on Facebook. Niven can't pronounce. Getting tired now. Niven McVicker. The housing associations have offered me on a few, but it wasn't really that great or near the HR. I'd have been better asking a sourcer to offer. Right. Okay. So that was just relating to the social house, the councils and housing associations buying up stock. Here's another question just to probably finish us off, Stephen, because this brings us on nicely to a wee plug for your course. There you go. Oh, over to you.
Yes, I've used mentors in the past before. I completely believe in, paying for a mentor, having a mentor, someone that, they're a few steps ahead of you in the game, a couple of years ahead of you, or whatever game you're looking to get into, whatever business you're in as well. Why not? I regret learning the hard way and fucking making hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of mistakes. And if someone could teach me and show me the quick, easy route, of course, I'd pay for it. I think they're hugely important, and not just in property, in any business. And property courses, absolutely. If you need, we're in the information age. You can find information on podcasts, books, audiobooks, anything like this. You can find the majority of the information for free. What I think the beauty of property courses is, it puts it all together for you neatly in a few days or a week or whatever the course may be. And I think the biggest thing as well, it gives you the network, people that are there that you meet, that's around you, that are in the same boat as you. It just helps boost your network instantly. That's all I'm going to say on that.
And I would say that I've never paid a property course. I've never paid a mentor. It's not that I'm against it. I used to be a bit of a dick when it came to this sort of stuff. And I used to slag off all property training and be like, why would you do this? It's a total waste of money. But now I really do see the value in speaking to people that we've had on the podcast. It really has opened my mind up to, not necessarily the big, 20 grand ticket events and these kind of 12-month mentorship and all that, but working with a coach maybe or a mentor. I think the way that I would do it if I was to go down the route, and I might still do it, I don't know, is to find somebody who's that kind of, like you say, that bit ahead of you where you want to get to. Definitely somebody that's been there and done it, and I would want to see proof of that. And really, really, a lot of people paying a lot of money to people out there who have done absolutely bugger all in property, and I think that's obviously where it gets a bad name. And that's just my kind of thoughts. So do your due diligence on whoever you're going to hand your money over to. And obviously, if you follow Stephen here on his Instagram, that's just the proof that you need. You see him out there hustling day to day. He's doing flips. He's doing joint ventures. He's doing buy-to-lets. He's buying up half of Aberdeen. So he's in Aberdeen just now. He can't even sell his flip up in Aberdeen. So it's not a great advert for your course, mate.
Not a great advert at all, mate, no.
And you need to get that plant watered as well. That's probably why it's no selling.
Honestly, the fly I keep seeing buzzing about.
The flies?
Probably the plants and the fact I keep leaving my lunch up here, my food up here.
Aye, there's maggots in the fridge. Right, cool. Right, so sorry, they just keep coming in here. Jim Parker's on the wind up. I think he's.
Is he calling himself King of Fife again?
King of Fife, mate. There's a challenge. There's a definite challenge to you there. Aye, but he's not got a Tesla, so definitely no the king. What's this here? Right, it's time to end because this is getting ridiculous now. So, guys, I hope you found some value in that. And listen, we really appreciate 2,000 followers. And obviously, the purpose of tonight was to kind of give a little back to the community. So yeah, thanks for listening to us, and you know where you can get us if you've got any more questions.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate the support. Cheers.
Good night. Right, mate, we'll check out. I'll just end the broadcast.
All right, buddy.